Hello, my name is Nick, and today we are here with Warren St. John, who is the author of Outcasts United. It's a nonfiction book about a woman's quest to make a refugee team flourish in the small town of Clarkston, Georgia. As an overview, a woman named Luma Muffla came to the United States from Jordan. Luma grew up wealthy and decided to move to the United States in search of a life that offered better opportunities for women. Her decision to come to the United States was strongly opposed by her family, especially her father, who stopped supporting her financially and emotionally. Luma struggled in America until she came across a group of refugee children playing soccer outside an apartment complex. She played soccer with these children day after day until one day she decided she wanted to make this refugee team into an organized team, which eventually were called the Fugees. Luma's experience with the Fugees gained national attention. Most of these kids were relocated to America after spending years in refugee camps outside their war-torn countries. They have seen some of the most horrific scenes, and many of them suffer from PTSD. Even after moving to America, these diverse individuals still face many obstacles, including discrimination and bullying inside and outside of school. So as mentioned, we have Warren St. John here to answer a few questions. To start off, Warren, where did this story take place?
The story took place in Clarkston, a town that was made up of primarily white privileged Southerners. After the refugees came to Clarkston, there was an increase in acts of discrimination and racism.
Our second question is, what is the main theme you hope to achieve through this book?
Freedom is the big overarching theme of my story. Clarkston, Georgia was a primarily white area previous to the refugees arriving. The freedoms between the refugees and the Georgians showed many disparities, but the greatest factor that impacted the freedoms was their socioeconomic status. While this may not seem like the case in real life, it oftentimes is, and I really wanted my story to represent that.
And our third question was, what was your inspiration for writing this book?
I was inspired to write this book after watching the Fugees play a game in Clarkston one afternoon. After that day, I quit my job to follow this refugee team around. These kids had come from the most horrific backgrounds, so to see them all come together and play soccer and have fun, it really did inspire me.
And our last question is, how does this book relate to healthcare?
In healthcare, you will come across a very diverse group of people, coming from all different kinds of backgrounds. Being sensitive and respectful to people with different beliefs and cultures than yourself is one of the most important aspects in health. Although a nurse or a healthcare provider may not always agree with a patient's beliefs or decisions regarding their health, the nurse's priority is the patient and should always support whatever they decide for themselves.
We also have Beatrice, who is the mother of Jeremiah and Mandela, two of the Fugees players. We also have a few questions for you. First, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I am Beatrice. I am from Liberia. My sons and I came here to America to escape the war in Liberia after the death of my husband. After 5 years of living in a refugee camp, we were sent to live in Clarkston. I have 3 children. Jeremiah and Mandela both play for the Fugees. I also have a job working hotel in Atlanta.
Another question for us is, what struggles do the Fugees face in the city of Clarkston?
We also do not have the economic means to obtain everyday essentials always, such as shoes. And we don't always understand American culture and what is acceptable and unacceptable, but we have to work with what we have.
Beatrice, what was it like being a single mother and raising 2 children in the southern town of Clarkston, where opportunities for Fugees were scarce?
Raising my children is a challenge in and of itself, but being in the position we were in of being refugees and being in a small southern town, a town whose values, culture, and judgments differ much from ours, adds to the challenge. The situation we were in was hard enough, but after my mugging, it made it harder. I felt as though we didn't have the privilege and opportunity to obtain safety in our lives. It made me very distrusting towards others, as well as very protective of my children. I simply did not want to let them go outside and play or to make friends. I wanted them to stay indoors with me where I knew they would be safe.
We are also here with Luma Muffla, who is coach of the Fugees. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Luma?
Yeah, hi Nick. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Luma, like you said, and I was born in Amman, Jordan. I went to Smith College in Massachusetts in 1993, graduated in 1997. When I came to America, I spent a lot of time at first waitressing and cooking. and doing a lot of stuff that, just getting my foot in the door and learning how really the United States works. It was a lot different from my home in Jordan, and so as that time kind of progressed, I learned a lot, but I also saw the refugee community in a different light. I was kind of given, I don't know, an upper hand with my situation because I chose to come to America for a better life. But these kids didn't really have a choice of where they went, where they came from, what they got to do with their lives, and so. Anyways, these refugees came from war-torn countries, and something that I noticed that they cared about throughout it all was soccer. And so I started a team called the Fugees, which is what's talked about in this book a lot. But I felt like that was a really good way to, one, get their minds off of things, but also give them an outlet, an opportunity to meet other people that are similar to them or even more different than the people from the United States. You have people from Iraq, Cuba, the Congo, just so many different places, and so exposing them to that was definitely a challenge, but I felt like it was something that could help them develop as young men. So that's a little bit about me and how I started the Fugees.
Our next question is, what struggles do the Fugees face in the city of Clarkston?
So the struggles that the Fugees faced in the city of Clarkston specifically was just the facilities. It was very, very hard to find facilities that they would be happy with. I mean, I guess it would be more so what I was happy with because they were fine playing in dirt and trash. They had no problem with that. They just wanted to be able to play, but it became a safety concern, and so anyways, finding places that would uphold safety regulations was just not something that was possible for us, so we had to spend a little extra time making sure that that there weren't nails or trash or anything that could mess with the boys, because they actually didn't even have shoes to play with. So some of them would go barefoot, or I had one boy that would go with one shoe because that's what he had. So some of those struggles would just be resources. Having the ability to even have a place to practice was one thing. We would get grants from places. They would give us tools to be able to have goals and different cones and stuff, so we could simulate as much of a soccer atmosphere as we could. But for the most part, it was very difficult. We kind of scrapped by, but they wanted to be there and they wanted to play, and so I did everything I could with what little I was given for them.
And our last question is, have you personally seen disparities in receiving health care for yourself or any of the Fugees players?
So the Fugees didn't necessarily have anything to do with healthcare specifically. My goal, I guess if you think about it, having the opportunity to be able to do something that's physically active, that was good for the boys, but I wasn't able to give them the outlet of getting healthcare just because, I'm one person. I had so many players on the team, and I didn't have the resources to allow them to play soccer, let alone get them any healthcare that they needed. And so what I do know from my end of the things is that when I had parents, specifically single moms, coming to me and telling me that one of their boys are sick, that was something that was handled in the home. Going and getting healthcare was not really something that was available to them, just because one, they don't have the money. Two, I think that there's such a stigma for them being in the United States anyways. I think a lot of them were scared to go and get health care, get help when they were sick or when they were hurt even, just because they are different.